Hello, friends and YouTube audience. Thank you for joining me for another video. This is Chef Dino, my channel Dino Valbone. I really appreciate you being here and supporting my channel. In today's video, we are going to make a very, very traditional, delicious stew. It's a Persian recipe from the Middle East. The name for it is Abghoosht. It's a beef stew. I call it Persian beef stew. It can be made either with beef or lamb. Now, traditionally, it's made with lamb because that's what's mostly consumed in the Middle East, but I make it with beef and I really love it. Okay, so to make this yummy, delicious dish, what you need, of course, is your choice of either lamb or beef. I am using chuck pot roast here. I've used several different types of beefs and I find that this works the best with this dish. This dish needs to have a little bit of fat in it. So if your meat has some fat like this one does right here, this is ideal. Now I am a little health conscious, so I'm going to be trimming some of the fat, but if you don't mind about that, it'll just add more flavor to your dish. Just like that right there, I'll be trimming some of these. So I just wanted to show you the whole cut first. In a bit, I'll be cutting this into segments. I'll be cutting it into kind of big chunks. Once I chop it up, I'll show you what that looks like. So your beef, of course, is your number one ingredient. Alrighty, so other ingredients are, of course, onions. This is just one large yellow onion that I've cut it into kind of size chunks about that size. You don't want it to, you can have it bigger, but you don't want it smaller than that, okay? Here we have some tomato paste. That's about 4 tablespoons of tomato paste. Here we have a tomato. This is my favorite tomato. It's called Cherokee Purple. That's hence the color, the purple color. It's not as red as your typical tomatoes. This is from my garden from last season. Look at how great this tomato looks, even though it's been preserved for about, I would say about 4 or 5 months now. If you want to know how to preserve your tomatoes that you have in your garden that you can't consume right away, check out my channel. There is a video as to how to preserve this tomatoes. Now this tomato, I've already taken the skin off. There's no skin on this, and the method of preservation I do, it's excellent for taking the skin off. So all you do is you take this under hot water after it's been preserved in the freezer. You take it out, take the wrapper off, hold it under a hot sink running water, and the skin comes right off, okay? And just leaves the beautiful flesh like that. So make sure you check that video out. On this side, we have, of course, garlic cloves. I have about 6 cloves here. I'm going to be cutting this into thin slices. I'm not going to chop it up fine. I'm just going to cut it into slices. I'll show you once I do that. What makes this dish special and gives it the flavor that no other stew you've ever had are these 2 ingredients right here, okay? These are savory leaves. This is an herb that gives the stew this kind of lemony flavor. It's really special herb. I find this and on my other herb I'm going to show you at sadaf.com. Now you may find it in ethnic stores. I'm sure it's out there. You can order it online, but I buy most of my herbs from sadaf.com. They have excellent shipping. I mean, they almost ship the next day, or you get the product the next day if you order it in the morning. Their prices are fair, their quantities are good, and you don't have to go to store and stand in line. Another little ingredient that, again, you may find in ethnic stores, for sure you can find it on sadaf.com, is dried limes. So these are actual limes that they dehydrate, and again, this gives the stew its delicious citrusy flavor. Before I add this to my stew, there is a little trick I do to it to get maximum flavor out of it, and I'll show you that once we get there. Now, as far as our spices go, basic spices, paprika, smoked paprika. Anybody knows me, turmeric. We got some onion powder. Even though we have fresh onion, we're going to add some onion powder. We got sea salt. We got ground pepper. Also, another herb that I forgot to put out here is garlic powder. So even though, again, we have garlic there, we're going to add some garlic powder. All right. So these are kind of the basic ingredients that make up this dish. If you invest in this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 herbs here, you pretty much can make almost all the dishes. Spices, I mean, not herbs. You can make almost all the dishes I make. These are spices that I use in my cooking all the time, and you can, make varieties of things with it. Alrighty, so next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare the beef by cutting it, and then I'm going to chop up my garlic, show you what it looks like, and then we'll start the cooking process. Okay, actually there were 2 more ingredients that I had. I forgot, I had them in the back. I had washed and they were getting drained. Garbanzo beans and white beans. Now these are just regular canned beans that I took it out of the can, put it in a strainer, run some cool, fresh, clean water over it to get rid of all the excess salt and whatever is in the can on them. So I'm going to put this aside. Now here's the beef. I've chopped it up into pieces. You can see I removed all those big chunks of fat. You want to leave some fat in there like I have here, because again, a lot of the flavor comes from the fat. But again, traditionally they put a lot of fat in there, and of course it gives it flavor, but it's not healthy for you. So that's the beef. It's ready to go. Here's how I like my garlic. Again, there's no particular rule. I just like to see big chunks of garlic in my stew. They are thin slices like that. Those couple I showed you maybe a little bit too thick, but that's ready to go. All right, so we have all of the ingredients ready. We're going to assemble this. I'm going to meet you by the stove, and I'm going to go over some tricks and tips as to how get the maximum flavor out of your beef, out of your tomato paste, and we're going to show you how this comes together. We're going to sear the beef. The way you sear the beef is very important, where you don't want the water to come out of the beef. You want it to get sealed in there, but at the same time get this nice crispy crust out on the outside of the beef. I'll meet you by the stove and show you what I do and how I do it. Okay, so we're heating up our pot here. I have some vegetable oil down there. Now you want to get this nice and hot. You don't want to get it to burning temperature, but you want it to be pretty hot. Now, in searing any meat, what's important is, number one, your meat has to be room temperature. Okay, that's one of the key factors in getting a good sear. If your meat is straight out of the refrigerator and it's cold, or if it's semi-frozen especially, what will happen is it'll cool your oil down really fast, and what will happen is the water will ooze out from the meat, and you'll get this rubbery, tough meat that won't get that nice brown sear outside of it. So you can either take your meat out of the refrigerator half hour or so before you sear it, or what I do if I'm in a rush is I just put it in the microwave. I put it on defrost and just let it come to room temperature. I started from frozen, so I defrosted it first, I cut it into the chunks, and then I put it back in the microwave. And right now you can see that there is no frost. It's nice and room temperature. Now, another trick to getting a good sear, again, it has to do with the temperature of the oil. You want to keep the oil temperature up, is to not put too many pieces in at once. You want to do enough small pieces where it doesn't drop the temperature of the oil. So if you have too much, let's say, meat, and it doesn't fit in your pot, don't be in a rush to throw everything in there all at once. it will cool the oil down and it will ruin the sear. So as you see, I'm waiting for the oil to heat up as I'm adding the pieces. You of course play with the temperature. If you're getting too hot and you're getting too much splatter, you bring the temperature down. If it's cooling down, you go up. So I'm just going to add my pieces like this, keeping an eye, making sure that I'm getting nice hot sear all around. And then what I'll do is, as part of this, as some of this sear really well, I'm going to take it out, put it on a plate, sear the rest, and then reintroduce everything to the pot. That's the best way you can sear and get the best results. Let me show you right now. Look at that. That is the type of sear you want to get. Now I would have let that go a little bit longer, but I just wanted to show you what that looks like. So I'm going to continue searing all of my pieces here, and I'll show you what it looks like once that's done. Okay, so if you've done your searing correctly, this is what it should look like. You have some juices oozing out, but you have this beautiful sear on your beef. You can see I'm doing it in segments because I had a lot of beef here. So pretty much we're done with our searing stage. Look at that. That is absolutely beautiful. So what we're going to do is add the rest of our beef and all the juices go in there. Now at this step, I'm going to add my onions, okay? Because I want to give my onions a little bit of sauteing. So I'm going to turn my heat to high because I don't want my pan to cool down. So we'll just let this go for a few minutes. Then in a few minutes, we're going to add our tomato paste. Now, one of the tips of getting maximum flavor out of your tomato paste is this. If you use oil and you saute your tomato paste, it'll turn the flavor to sweet. Now there is a fine line between sauteing and burning it. You got to be careful you don't do that. But if you're making any dish that you're going to use tomato paste, if you are sauteing, let's say onions, if you add the tomato paste to it and just saute it for a few minutes, kind of get the color to change to a little bit darker color, you're going to notice a huge difference in the flavor of your tomatoes. So this is going great. We're going to continue letting this go for a few more minutes. I want to get a little bit of more saute on the onions, kind of make them turn a little bit more translucent and absorb some of the meat juice. And then I'll be adding my tomato paste, coating all the beef pieces with the tomato paste, and continue sauteing it that some more. All right, so you can see the onions are letting out some water. I don't want that water there, so I'm going to let that evaporate, and then we'll add the tomato paste and I'll show you what we do next. So our onions are getting there. At this stage, I'm going to add some sea salt. You can use any salt you like. Salt it to taste. I like my food a little salty, but always remember you can add more salt, but you can't take it out. So kind of be frugal in the beginning until then you can add more and perfect it. Now there's a little bit of black coarse ground pepper. I'm going to add that to it. You can add your other herbs and spices at this stage too. I like to add my little bit of my turmeric at this stage. I'll be adding more later on. Can't go wrong with turmeric. The more articles I read about turmeric and its benefits, anti-parasitic, antibacterial, anti-cancer, anti-inflammatory. Yeah, that's a big one. You want to do that. All right, look at that. This already smells so good, but we're not done yet. So here goes our tomato paste. I'm just gonna put it in there. Don't worry about it. But what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to mix this around so the tomato paste coats the beef, and it comes in contact with the pan for it to saute and fry a little bit. I'm gonna turn the heat down. At this stage, you can go to about medium or low heat. Again, gotta be careful you don't burn that tomato paste. All right, look at that. Now this is a method I do it. You can throw everything in there together, and you know, if you're in a hurry, but I find that the more time and love you put in cooking, the more delicious the dish turns out. Alrighty, look at that. So I'm gonna just saute the tomato paste for a couple of minutes, not that long, because the pot is pretty hot already. It will bring the flavors out. Again, I can't emphasize how sauteing tomato paste brings out the flavor, the sweetness, changes the flavor. It brings out sweetness in it. All right, so that's almost ready to go. In a little bit, we're gonna add water to it. You can add beef broth for a richer flavor, but I think with the beef, with the amount of fat and all herbs, we have plenty of flavor. We don't need to add any more. I'll probably be adding about 4 or 5 cups of water because we're gonna let the water simmer the beef to a point where it's ready and tender and it's almost falling apart. Once we add the water, we're going to add our lemons. I'm going to show you what I do. My dried limes. I'm going to show you what I do with them to get maximum flavor out of it. We're going to add our savory leaves and show you what we do next. All right, I'll be right back. Okay, now see all that brown stuff at the bottom of the pan right there? We're going to deglaze that. Okay, this is when you know you're ready to add your water. Make sure your heat is on medium. Add the water. And I just switch this around to get all that goodness dissolved in the water. All right, so that was just perfect timing. Pick up one of these pieces and scrape the bottom of your pan. There you go, look at that. And we're gonna add a little bit more water. So again, I'm gonna add about 4 to 5 cups of water. Too much water is okay. You can always cook it down, evaporate it. Too little, you might risk burning things. So, all right, my goodness. Look at the thickness. Here, let me show you. Look at the richness of this sauce here right now already. And this is like not even done yet. And I bet it already tastes pretty good. All right, so I'm gonna add the rest of my water. And I'll be right back with the other spices and we'll go from there. Alrighty, so at this stage we added our water. It's about maybe 4 to 6 cups. You can judge. You can always add more water. I have the heat on high to get this to a rolling boil. Goes our garlic. Just put that in there. Goes our savory leaves. This gives, again, sour, kind of sourish flavor. That's what the word I was using for. This was about maybe 2 tablespoons to up to 3. I love the flavor of savory leaves. Also, it's very, very good for you. It's very healthy for you. You can look up the benefits online. Now we are going to add some more of our spices. Here I have onion powder. We're going to add some more. You can include this to your taste. A little bit more garlic powder. I'm gonna add some more sea salt. I'm gonna stop at that because I can always check it later and add more, a little bit more pepper. Smoked paprika brings out delicious, delicious flavors, and it gives color, a beautiful color to your food. And of course, my favorite of all time, turmeric. Yes, sir. I'm gonna add some more of that, like that. All right, so now we're gonna get to our dried limes. Now you can either throw these in there whole. You don't need to wash them or anything. But what I do is I take a sharp knife and I go, I go little holes in it. Be careful you don't poke yourself. And what this does is it releases the flavor without releasing the, seeds and, thank you. Please jump in and help me. I'm having a hard time remembering words. Thank you. Seeds and whatever the little pieces are called inside there, right? Pulp. There you go. See, that's why I married her. We're a good, we complement each other. I cook good, she eats good, and she helps me remember words. And I love her. It goes in there. And without her, I wouldn't have anybody filming these videos. So everybody give a round of applause for my beautiful wife for helping us make these beautiful videos. All right. This is a great food for a rainy, cold day. And by the way, there's a traditional way of eating this food. I'm going to show you at the end. So unfortunately, you have to stick around until the end of this to see how this soup is eaten, because there's a very neat traditional way of eating this. And I'm going to show you that. Now, one more ingredient that's going to go in there right now is, ta-da, Wild Haven Acres Vegetable Garden tomatoes. This beauty was grown in my garden. Can't believe it, how well it preserved. Wonderful for sauces, stews. I think if you let it defrost in room temperature, you can even eat this in a salad because it's held its integrity pretty well. Now, sometimes you'll find people put potatoes also in this, but I find that just garbanzo beans and white beans, pretty much does the trick. All right, so I'm gonna cover this. I'm gonna let it simmer. This is one of those stews that the longer, slower you cook it, the more delicious it gets. Once we're ready, I usually add the beans and the garbanzo beans at the end because they're canned. They're already cooked. They don't need to cook that long, otherwise they'll get mushy. Once we get to that stage, we'll be back. We'll do that, and then we'll go from there. Please like and subscribe to my videos. Also, I want to remind everybody I have a video out there called Name This Soup. It's my own original recipe. Please check that video out. I'm going to put the link at the end of this video, so you can just click on it and go to that video. Watch that video. It gives you a chance to win a jar of Wild Haven Acres fig jam. We call it the flying fig jam because it flies off the shelves. We sell out every year because we have very limited quantities. It's all natural, made, grown by me. The jam is made by me, and it's really, really delicious. And if you name my soup and your name gets picked in about 3 more weeks, we will send you a complimentary jar of Wild Haven Acres. And again, we appreciate you and watching my videos. We'll be back once this thing is simmering and it's ready for us to add the other ingredients. Thank you. Alrighty, my friends. So it's been about an hour and a half, hour and 15 minutes, I think, since the last clip. Here we go. The stew has reduced. You can see. Now, how I can tell is what I do is I pick up a piece of the beef and see if I can just spoon or fork right through it. And you can see how this is just falling apart. That tells me our beef is ready, our stew, our broth is ready. Check this out. This is absolutely delicious. I'm going to taste it for salt. Oh my God, it is just perfect. I wouldn't change a thing. At this point, I'm going to add my white beans. Again, these are canned beans that just were rinsed off under cold water. Give that a stir. Get it mixed up in there. I might add a little bit of water to this, depending on how it turns out towards the end. Now here we have our garbanzo beans. Garbanzo beans are very delicious. They're healthy for you. I have a whole another recipe for these beans where you can make them as snacks. I had a lot of good comments about it. I have a video how to make snacks out of these garbanzo beans. It's easy. A can of garbanzo beans is about $1, $1.15, and you can make delicious, delicious snacks out of it very inexpensively. with inflation today. So we're going to add our garbanzo beans. Make sure you check out that video on my channel. We're going to give this a stir, mix it in there. All right, now since these are canned beans and we don't need to really cook them that much, it's just a matter of warming them up, infusing the flavor. We're almost there with this dish. I think it's just perfect. I may add a little bit of water, but nothing more than that. Most probably my next clip is going to be of me plating and showing you how this stew, this Abghoosht, it's called, is eaten traditionally with its side dishes. Okay? See you in a bit. Thank you. All righty, folks. Check this out. This is our Abghoosht. It's ready to go. Look at the creaminess of that broth. Now, we have this lime. What I like to do is, before I go any further, I just like to squeeze the juice out of it. Look at that, look at that. Because we don't want any of the seeds or the pulp in there, but we want the flavor. So this is what I do. Get that out of there. All right. So the way to serve this is this. You're going to separate the broth, you know, with some of the beans, but mostly broth. Want to get a little bit of beef in there, it's fine. I'm going to put that in there. All right. So the traditional way of serving this is the broth like that, and you take like pita. This is just pita that's been crisped up on the stove. Oh, I'm sorry, not. Well, there you go. That's why I need my wife here to remind me. This is not pita, it's lavash. So this is called bertel in Armenian. It's a word that my mom taught me. Very traditional Armenians would know the meaning of that word, bertel. So we're gonna put some crispy bread. Now, if you don't have lavash, you can substitute tortillas, crackers, all sorts of different things in here. The idea is to soak up the juice here like that. So this you're gonna eat just like that. But this is the fun part for me. Now we're gonna put this aside here. In Farsi, this is called dizi. Not dizi like you had too much to drink, but maybe too much to eat. So what you do is you just take the meat, the beans, you drain as much of the juice as you can. Actually, there is a whole set of plates and dish and implements to do this. Unfortunately, I do not have it, so I compromise. Here you go. So what you do is you take that and you mush this around. The idea is to mix the look at this meat. Look at how it's falling apart on you. This is the beauty of this dish. Our camera lady is very hungry. So we're gonna give her a little bit of it's hot. What do you think? Good?
So tender. You don't have to chew it.
Is TMJ approved? That's temporomandibular joint. For those who don't know, if you have jaw pain, you can't chew food good, this is the dish for you. Anyways, so here we go. So what we're gonna do is mash this up. You know, there's a traditional, what is it called, mortar and pestle? Yeah, that you can use. Yeah, especially to make this. It's called dizzy. It doesn't mean you're dizzy, but it can get you dizzy if you wish. Anyway, so we're gonna mash this up just like that. So the beauty of this dish is that you end up with two different plates. One is like this, kind of like a burrito, but Persian style. Or maybe we can call this Persian style burrito. So this is what you got right here. I'm not gonna waste your time showing you how to mash this, but I would mash it a little bit further until it's like all mixed up. And then you have the soup part of it, just like that. Okay? So you enjoy this, of course. Like a soup. Oh my God. What goes with it? Onions. These are white, sweet onions, pickled carrots, pickles, cucumber, jalapeno, cauliflower. This is the way I love having mine. Okay, a little bit of that, a little slice of onion, a little pickle. Out of this world. Anyways, oh my God, wait. Live, laugh, love, make Abghoosht, get dizzy on me, make the Abghoosht, enjoy. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out my Name That Soup video. I'm giving away Wild Haven Acres jam. Take care of your animals, take care of yourself. Am I missing anything else? Yeah. My wife says no. I'm Chef Dino Valbone. I have a very special treat coming up. I'm going to make dessert called nazook, which we're going to use of Wild Haven Acre fig jam. Stay tuned for that. Love you. Take care. See you next video. So my wife has been riding all day in the storm. She's kind of like what Jim Morrison sang about, riders on the storm. What do you think about this stew after riding the storm?
Oh my God, it's amazing. It's the best Abghoosht ever. It's so hearty and comforting and the best thing to have on a cold, rainy day, especially after riding in the storm. No.
Yeah, so if you own horses, you gotta try this recipe. And if you don't, well, you gotta get horses, huh? All right.